Hi, everybody, and welcome to our session on the Payments API, co-presented today with Almabase, a Blackbaud ISV partner. I'm Mina Mistry, and I'm a product manager on the Blackbaud Merchant Services side and responsible for developing the Sky Payments API. I'm joined today by Kanhai Shah, who is joining us from Bangalore, India. Kanhai led the integration between Almabase and the Blackbaud Sky APIs and is here with us today to showcase and demo the code that they used for payments and also for RENXT. Next slide. I think I already did the intros. So if we go over to the next slide, the quick agenda for today, I'll kick us off. I'm going to be providing a very brief overview of the Sky Payments API in case it's new to you. And then we'll spend the bulk of today's session really going through the Almabase integration and demo, showing you the code, showing you kind of how the integration works. And then I'll wrap us up. I'll show you a couple of really useful links that we have on resources on how to get started, and that'll be it. So we're here to answer any questions. Please do feel free to ask any questions throughout the session today. So let's get started. All right, so I'm going to give you a general understanding of the Sky Payments API at a high level. And what we built the API for was for Blackbaud customers who more and more frequently want to simplify their payment processing. And they want to do this by expanding the use of their existing Blackbaud Merchant Services accounts. Blackbaud Merchant Services, I may also shorten it to BBMS today. But when you become a customer with Blackbaud and you set up a Blackbaud Merchant Services or a BBMS account, it's initially used to process any payments that originate in Blackbaud solutions through our forms, our donations, tuition payments, ticket sales, etc. So what the Sky Payments API does is allows our customers to then take that existing BBMS account outside of Blackbaud and across their entire platform by connecting BBMS to the other applications that they use. We can see some examples on this slide of those applications here. So, some of the most common ones that we see are telephone fundraising. We see some custom web pages. We see mobile canvassing, i.e. face-to-face fundraising. Those sorts of use cases that traditionally Blackbaud software may not serve directly are very common that we see our customers processing payments through the Blackbaud Payments API so that all of their payments are centralized through their BBMS account. For our customers, I think the main driver for them is that they only have a single payment processor to manage, right? Setting up a new merchant services account is actually quite a big overhead for our customers. So having, the same set of fees that they're used to, the same reports, the same payouts, it can really help to speed up the onboarding, right? As many of you are probably aware, when it comes to onboard customers to new software, not having to worry about a new merchant account is a huge benefit because you skip the whole KYC process because they've already gone through it with Blackbaud Merchant Services. Next slide. So this slide provides a quick high-level overview of the different types of ways that you can initiate payments with the Payments API. They all serve different use cases that we're seeing. I'm going to quickly just run through it left to right. So online payments, these are obviously online card not present payments, typically through a website where a cardholder is making an anonymous transaction. With online payments, I will touch on this more in a moment, but we have our Blackbaud checkout. This is our optimized payments user experience that's used in all Blackbaud products today, and it's also available to use through the Sky Payments API. We will see checkout in action a little bit later on today. The next one is in-person. So these are the in-person card present payments, and we have a few different ways to enable these use cases. We do have some devices that you can use through the Sky Payments API. We have a payment terminal device. This is a Wise POS E, which is Wi-Fi enabled, and it allows for contactless and tap-to-pay payments in addition to wallets. We also have a point-to-point encryption device from Bluefin as well. And actually on the P2PE device, an interesting use case that you might be, it's good to know, is that we have a lot of direct mail use cases. So imagine you're in a scenario where you're entering in direct mail payments or even telephone orders, some of our customers like to use a point-to-point encryption device to ensure that end-to-end process is entirely secure. And you can do that as well through that Bluefin device. Merchant originated, so that's our term that we use for any payment where you're using a saved payment method, or you're entering it through a back office mode. These can also refer to recurring gifts and things like that. I will say just a note on recurring gifts, because I know this is a very hot topic. The Payments API, just like Blackbaud Merchant Services, is really just the vehicle or the mechanism for processing a payment. It will allow you to store a payment method for future use, but it won't manage the actual scheduling of that next payment installment. And this is something that the calling application will need to trigger, via payment requests. So I think we'll speak to this again a little bit later on when we look at the demo, but just something to keep in mind, where typically our customers will push that recurring gift that's been captured into a CRM like RENXT, where you can use something like automated recurring giving to automate subsequent payments. All right, next slide. I have just one more slide here to wrap up my introduction. I just wanted to present this as, if you're considering using the Sky Payments API, whether you're a customer or a partner, something in between even, these are some of the reasons why we see benefits that our customers and our partners talk about. Again, one-time and recurring payments, obviously, that we support, as I just mentioned. Blackbaud Checkout, which you'll see here a screenshot of, and we'll see a bit later on, it can help you reduce your PCI footprint because Blackbaud hosts the form, which is very helpful for organizations who don't want that additional overhead of managing audits and things like that. Our checkout UI also includes digital wallets, Apple Pay, PayPal, Venmo, GPay is coming. And we know that these wallets help increase conversion. So Blackbaud Checkout, like I said, is optimized. We also do have teams, behind the scenes continuously working on A/B testing to improve conversion all the time on this form. So that is another benefit that you will gain from if you use Blackbaud Checkout in your custom applications. Checkout is also, behind the scenes has a lot of built-in fraud prevention tools. We have the standard things like reCAPTCHA, 3DS2, but we also do have our own proprietary fraud and blocking algorithms to really help reduce fraud. And then lastly, another good thing to know is that there are no additional costs for using the API. The processing rate for each transaction is the same as what you would pay as if you were processing from your Blackbaud application. So it's good to know for our customers. And lastly, I'll just say that we do, since we launched the Sky Payments API, we're now in the hundreds of integrations that developers have built. And these integrations do span the globe. So we have customers in the US and Canada, in Australia, New Zealand, and in the UK as well, who use the Sky Payments API for a number of the different types of use cases that we've talked about today. All right, with that, I'm going to hand it over to Kanhai to go through the Almabase work.
Thanks, Mina. Before going into the demo of how Almabase leverages Payments API, I just wanted to give a brief about what Almabase does. So we are alumni management software that also has an event management and fundraising tool. We use Blackbaud API, Payments API for donations, for event processing, for memberships. So there are a lot of workflows. On top of that, we also sync all this data back to Razor's. So one-time gifts, recurring gifts, all this data is seamlessly synced back to the Razor's. I'll cover most of those parts in my demo, but there are some interesting facts I wanted to share before we do the demo. So as of today, we are processing payments for more than 150 schools and universities through Almabase. More than 100 schools and universities are pushing one-time as well as recurring gifts using Almabase through Razor's. Then one of the other interesting fact is there are more than 60%, and this number can be slightly higher as well, are leveraging payment wallets like Venmo, Apple Pay through BBMS when they process payment. And this also has contributed to the fourth point. So generally, we measure donor experience and event registration experience on Almabase, and we have an average rating of 4.7 out of 5, which is across nearly 15,000 to 20,000 reviews, and a lot of those reviews talk about how easy it is to make a payment through BBMS. There is Apple Pay, there is Venmo, so they get a host of option, and it does not look like it's coming from some hosted site, but because it takes the branding of the site that we have created. So these are some interesting facts I thought will be helpful to share before we start the demo. Just few notes about the demo. Like there are few prerequisite data that I'll go through that you'll need to run this kind of scripts that I'm sharing. And also during this demo, what we'll be showing is a card not present transactions. So without waiting for a long, let's jump into the demo. So what I'll be showing is I'll be showing the giving day product from Almabase, which integrates, which processes payments to the BBMS payments. So this is a typical Almabase giving day page looks like. It is tied to a BBMS test payment gateway. It's a sandbox account. So if you click here, you get two options. One is a one-time payment and one is a monthly payment. I'll go through both of those payments just to show how they are different. So let's say I'm just making a donation for $50. I'll just put all my details here. Yeah, and I'll just proceed. So at this moment, what it will do is it will try to open the BBMS payment model. This is the exact workflow that any user who is donating through Almabase will also see, right? I'll just add the address line. I have disabled copying the address line from the application to BBMS, but that is still possible. So your application is getting the data, then you don't need to ask donor again. You can pre-fill this data. So as you can see, this is in test mode. I'll be using test card numbers, but this is exactly what donors will be seeing while they are making the payment. And once this is done, I think so this is the process which user goes through. And once this payment is captured, we can see this payment being tracked on the transaction list on the payment portal. So this is the BBMS payment portal where you can see the list of transactions, and it should show that this transaction that was recently. So you can see this transaction listed here, right? So this is how the one-time payment gets processed through Almabase, which is integrated through BBMS. What I'll do next is I'll also show you how recurring gifts are processed. The experience is exactly same. There are slight minor changes which I'll as and when I'm on those pages, I'll try to show them what those changes are. So again, it's similar process. It opens up the BBMS model. I'll just add the details. And I'll just. So one of the differences here, because we are making a recurring gift donation, and as it was covered earlier, recurring gifts are not automatically processed for subsequent payments by BBMS. It's just a carrier that provides you a way to collect the first payment. We will be storing a card token that I'll just show the code after this demo. But here it's showing that I am authorizing as a user to store that card token. So that's the difference when you are collecting a one-time payment versus when you're collecting a recurring payment. So I'll again give test card details, and I'll just again finish the payment. Yeah, so again, this transaction should also logged in the transaction list. The way recurring gift works is we get the first payment, and then all the subsequent payment we rely on RENXT to process. So as you can see here, both these transactions are tracked. This is part of a recurring gift, and this is the one-time gift. Now, what I'll try to do is I'll try to see how you can set up this similar kind of experience or similar kind of code if you want. So I'll just go here. I have a side-by-side screen of, and I'll also show exactly at what time what is happening. So it gives you a good idea. There are a couple of things that you will need as a prerequisite. One is the public key. So basically you can use this API to get the public key. So once you get authenticated with the Blackbaud merchant services or Blackbaud through OAuth, you'll get this public key, and this is a merchant account ID. So basically this merchant account ID is the account that you want to charge against. You can again use this API to get the list of merchant accounts. Generally, I do all my testing and everything before going live on the sandbox account. So to start with, when we load this page, what we do is we load this JavaScript file. So this is a BB checkout JavaScript file, which enables you to open the form later, right? So that's the first step you will be doing. Second step is, let's say when this page is loaded and someone clicks here and fill some amount. Let's just add some data. And click here. This is where we'll start creating transaction data. So basically we'll make a call and we'll prepare all this data. So this is the important part which derives how this model should be shown. So if you can see, like, all these colors and everything is according to our primary colors as well. These are not separate different colors, which makes it feel like it is hosted by us and it's not hosted by third party, right? So all those settings you can do here. I'll go through all the settings one by one, so it's very clear. As I said, you need to pass the key, you need to pass the payment configuration ID. So after that, you can also pass this billing details as well. So someone, if your application is anyway asking this data, you don't need to ask donor to add this detail again. This is the specific transaction type we are going through, which is card not present. These are the things you can configure. Let's say you want someone to always enter the email, or his name is required or not, or name is visible or not. The settings you can do. These are all the payment model settings. This is very important. So these are the payment method. Because I'm testing it on the sandbox, Apple Pay is not visible. But basically, once you have a Apple Pay setup, which is just setting up one domain file, I think once you just pass this flag as true, it will start showing up the Apple Pay button just on this same model. That's how easy it is. Again, these are just different payment methods you can configure to show or hide. And then this is what takes care of the branding. You can pass the primary color, you can pass the secondary color, and all the other data is depending on the application. One of the most important part of this all data is the card token. So when you are taking recurring donation, what generally Almabase does is Almabase creates a card token and pass it as part of the transaction data. So when this transaction is successful, this tokenized data will be returned back to Almabase, and this data will be used in subsequent payment in future to process another payment. So this is very, very important for the recurring gift. Whenever we pass any data here, that's where you will see that notice on payment model that you need to, the user has authorized you to process the recurring payment. And then it comes to this point where you open the form. So basically you prepare all this data and then you open this form. This opens this model. And once you open this model, everything else is hosted from BB. You don't need to do anything on this model. All you need to do is you need to just register 3 callback functions, right? So one is checkout complaint, one is checkout error, and one is checkout cancel. Like, basically, first one is whenever someone is done with the payment, this function get called, and other 2 are for error handling. That's something you can configure according to your application needs. So what I have done is whenever someone does the checkout complete, I'll call one server-side function called charge data. So basically, this is the data that I have created on the transaction. This function will pass to server. So I have created one dummy function here. So basically what it does, it takes this data, and if the data has card token, it will create an authorized token out of it, and it will call the method checkout transaction on Blackbaud payment services. So what this will do is it will create a transaction and it will return back to your application. Basically, after this point, what Almabase does is, depending on what is the status of transaction, Almabase will create a gift and will associate the transaction with this gift. So this is how you can host the payment on Almabase, right? Again, going through the very important things, whenever you are trying to get the recurring payment, it's extremely important that you create this card token and you pass that card token with this checkout transaction, right? So yeah, I think that's how you can set up your own code to collect the payments, integrate the payments API with your basic HTML or JavaScript or whatever code you are familiar with. But yeah, this gives you a brief of how to set up the payments. Now coming to the second part, this is where we have already got the gifts processed through BBMS. What I'll try to show now is how to push this data to Razor's Edge. Right. So if we go here, so Almabase has something called giving dashboard. So what we can do is we can generally filter gifts through giving dashboard. So I'll just say I'll filter by this page itself. And what I'm trying to do is whatever two gifts that I have processed just now, I'll try to push this to Razor's Edge. So this is prerequisite on Almabase where you will need to create a gift list. So I'll just say it's a giving day 2024 list. And I'll just do, so you'll need to assign some constituent for this gifts to get pushed to RENXT because it needs system record ID for that constituent. So yeah. So now once these gifts are being mapped, what I can do is I can just click on sync gift. Here you will get two options, whether you can add it to an existing batch on RE or you can create a new batch. Within also create a new batch. If you keep it blank, it will take a automatic format that RE takes. Or you can, let's say you can also say that I want to create a new batch with gift giving day 2024. And there are a bunch of things that you can update here. These are all the things that API supports. So you can add appeal package, campaign, gift type, gift type payment methods, and you can also push custom fields as well. So this is something, it depends on how you reconcile the payments. But right now I'll just keep all of them blank and I'll just start syncing the data. So what it will do is it will, if because I have selected that I want to create a new batch, it will create a new batch and will add this two gifts to that batch. So if I go to gift batch UI on RENXT, it will show me that I have a batch that is created here and it has two gifts. So yeah, so one of the important thing to note is one of this gift, right? One of this gift was part of the recurring payment, right? So basically how Almabase processes recurring payment is, let's say when you are pushing these gifts from Almabase to RENXT. If it identifies that one of the gift is a recurring gift payment, first it will create a placeholder recurring gift on this constituent, and it will then push the recurring gift payment on the batch. So if we go to this constituent on RENXT, you should see one recurring gift created here. So if we, yeah, so if you see there is one recurring gift of $50, $50 worth of recurring gift payment here, which is still under approval, and $50 worth of one-time gift that was donated as a separate gift. So this, when you push it from Almabase, this is the state where it will be in. Now, if you go to this batch and let's say if you approve this, this should automatically move out of approval and get designated to this constituent. So the flow for recurring gift compared to one-time gift is whenever you are pushing one-time gifts from Almabase to RENXT, first it will check if it's a one-time recurring gift payment. It will first create a recurring gift placeholder, and then it will link the one-time gift through a batch. Now I'll again go through a similar demo that I did for payments and show how this thing can be achieved with a minimal setup. So I'll go to basically here on the, and here I don't need this UI. Basically, what we did was we created a list of gifts and we tried to push those gifts to RENXT batch. So what you need to first do is you have to have your own application logic to get those list of gifts. Here I'm just saying like it's a dummy gift 1 and dummy gift 2. And then you'll also have a way to figure out whether someone wants to append to a batch or wants to create a new batch. So step one is to collect the gifts and collect this input that whether you want to append to a batch or whether you want to create a new batch. So if there is no batch number, you can use this API to create a batch. If there is a batch number, then first what you need to do is you need to search RENXT to see if there are already batches with this batch number. And if there are batches with this batch number, we'll append to that batch. And if there are no batches with this batch number, we'll just create a new batch. So in this second step, what we are doing is we are just taking the batch number if it's provided, and we are trying to create or append to an existing batch. Now the step three is a critical step. So here we are trying to prepare a gift data which we are going to push to batch. So there are if there is it's a recurring payment. So I'm taking one scenario where it's a recurring payment. So first, as I mentioned, first we'll have to create a recurring gift. So what we are doing here is we are creating a recurring gift data. This is supported on this create gift API. You add amount, you add constituent ID, splits, and payments. Here, it's very important that you pass account token, which is a card token that we collected, right? Like the card token that we created while processing the payment, and the same card token you'll get in response when the payment is done. This is extremely critical to pass within the payments JSON, right? And then all other fields are just similar. It's a date, it's whether this gift is anonymous or not, and custom fields. One of the other thing is when you are creating a recurring gift, you do create a schedule of that recurring gift on your application. That same schedule, basically, what's the frequency, what's the start time, what's the end time. If it's a limited recurring gift, you might say like it might end in 12 months. If it's unlimited recurring gift, it might not end. It might have an end date as null. So that schedule needs to be passed here. Once this data is prepared, you create a recurring gift on RENXT. Once you create a recurring gift, you'll get an ID from that, and that's when you push the first payment that you have got for this recurring gift to a batch. So if you see here, we are creating a payment for the first payment gift data for the first payment. So here the kind of data we are passing is quite similar. Only few things that you don't need to pass here is you don't need to pass your recurring gift schedule, because this is something very specific for recurring gift. And the other thing is you don't need to pass token here. One thing that you need to make sure you pass is you do provide another attribute called linked gifts, right? So this defines whether this gift is associated with a recurring gift or not. So what you need to do is whatever recurring gift you have created here, you just need to pass that recurring gift ID as a linked gift here. So whenever this data is prepared, you can now use this API, which is pushing gifts to gift batches, and you can just pass this gift data. And basically what it will do is it will just what we show, like it will go to a batch and add a one-time payment that was processed as part of a recurring gift to the batch. And once you approve this batch, because it was added as a linked recurring gift payment, it will associate with the recurring gift automatically. So yeah, this is how you can very easily set up BBMS payment very quickly, and it's pushing data for the payment collected through BBMS to RENXT is also extremely straightforward. I think that's it. I'll switch back to Mina. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Kanhai. That was great. Really good tips and tricks there, because I think one of the things I liked was you showed how easy it was to get set up with checkout and get that up and running. I liked how you showed the different branding on the checkout experience, so it kind of matched with your branding on Almabase's website. And then using the payments API in conjunction with the RENXT API to capture the gift and then push that into RENXT. I do want to mention that the two APIs, even though they're both part of the Sky Developer platform, the payments API does have a different subscription. It's not a big deal, but just know that there's two different subscription keys for payments and for RENXT. So if we go to the next slide, I want to just touch on some resources that we have had available that I like to share with people who are looking to get started. So we have demos similar to what you've seen today. We have recordings of previous sessions that I think are really useful to go through. The first one on Payments API and RENXT it goes a little bit more into depth into the initial setup, which is common to a lot of all the Sky Developer APIs. So you may be familiar with it already, but the OAuth workflow, making sure you get the right authentication token set up properly that you need prior to using the APIs. It walks through that as well. So you can look at that. I mentioned the payment terminal earlier today too. So that's a way of accepting card present payments. If you want to see that device in action, we have a recording of that as well. So there's a few useful videos that you can watch. We'll send these resources out to you after today's session. We also have a quite active Sky Payments API community that we have developers post to if they're using the API and they have questions about, certain use cases that they want to serve. Can the API do this? How do I do that? And so that's a great place for you to kind of poke around and take a look, or post your own questions if you're in the middle of development and need some assistance. And then over on the right-hand side, we have our Getting Started guide. So you'll see step-by-step instructions on how to get set up with the Payments API, how to make sure that if you're a developer outside of a Blackbaud customer, how to make sure that you have the right permission set up. Obviously, it's payment processing, so we want to make sure that these payments are secure, they're being made from authorized applications that the customer has allowed to process through their merchant accounts. So there's permissions that need to be set up prior to making requests. And then if you are a Blackbaud customer, I just want to also shout out this new Blackbaud University course that isn't super technical, but it does go through the use cases that we support with the Payments API. So it would be a good thing for you or anyone in your organization to access and flip through if you want to, again, just get a recap of the types of use cases that we can support. If there's applications that you use today that you're considering using with BBMS, that will help you also address some of your questions. So I think that is everything that we have for today. I hope you enjoyed it and found that useful. Please do post any questions into the chat. We'd love to hear from you, but otherwise, thanks for joining us and enjoy BB Dev Days. Thank you.